Well, let's start then. Welcome. Today we start something new. It's not the podcast of champions, it's the review of champions this time. And we're gonna try this and we'll see how it works. We're gonna do some reviewing of shows and movies on the chat. And we're starting with The Mandalorian today, but maybe you can expect more to come. As always, we invite anyone to join us on Sakaar to meet us there, and who knows, maybe even join on the podcast or reviews. We are a truly global community of pop culture fans, and you are more than welcome to join. Links will be posted down below. Hope to see you there soon. With me are Maximura, ArArArchStanton, and all the way from down under ShadowBiz.
Hello.
Oh, I am Sakaar's Grandmaster, and let's start reviewing The Mandalorian episode 1 of season 2. Well, episode 1 called The Marshal. We start off with the Mandalorian on his quest to bring the child. I will call him the child to keep Maximura happy.
Much obliged.
Yeah, to bring the child back to its people. And he finds out that he needs to go to Tatooine, very well known planet in the Star Wars universe, on the Outer Rim. Hardly anybody has ever heard of it, but yet somehow Star Wars always seems to take place in Tatooine. But anyway, he goes to Tatooine, back to Tatooine actually, to find the Mandalorian that is supposed to be there. There he goes to a little mining town in the desert and finds out that there is somebody with a Mandalorian armor, but it's not really a Mandalorian. It's the marshal of the town, and they set out on a quest to kill a beast, a dragon, if you will. And that's basically how the episode goes. Before I give my opinion on the episode, I would like to go to ShadowBiz for his opinion and any thoughts he had on the episode.
Someone else here first. I'm just blanking right now.
All right. We'll go there then. So my thoughts on it were there were a lot of Easter eggs in the episode, little subtle nods that really add depth to it that you might not catch on at first, like the marshal wearing the armor. The moment you looked at him, you could tell that wasn't his armor. And I mean, obviously as a fan, you knew that wasn't his armor looking at it, but to look at it from an outside perspective, nobody looking at him looked and went, oh yeah, that's definitely that guy's armor. Like it was 3 sizes too small for him or something. It just didn't look right on that guy. But I love the subtlety of that. There were other little things like the dragon noise that was there harkens back to the noise that Obi-Wan made when he was calling off the Sand People in A New Hope. Like the noise he made there was intentionally meant to mimic that dragon. The little carrying case he had for the crystals was from Sky City in episode 6 or episode 5, where the guy's running off with something as they hear there's an attack coming. And originally that was a little ice cream maker, but they brought it back for that because they thought that carrying case was just an iconic thing to have. So there's a lot of subtle throwbacks that they included in the episode that I found to be very powerful and did a good job of bringing it back together. I know there's some feedback on the community as to the surprise cameo or the not so surprising cameo, depending on who you ask, I suppose. I will let some other people get in before we get too much into the controversy, I suppose.
Arch?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about Star Wars in general that I thought this episode really hit was the kind of futuristic Western theme. When I saw it the second time, I felt this way the first time, but when I saw it the second time, I especially just pointed out to my wife when we were watching it that, aside from the couple of laser blasters and Baby Yoda and a few other, I know you like that, a few other specifically futuristic type of things, or at least unearthly type of things, it really feels like a Western. They feel like they're walking into this old school Western desert town, and I just kind of love that vibe. So regarding the ending a little bit, but more the setup for it, there's a lot of things in there that I thought were like, really interesting kind of hints and foreshadowing moments. Like, they talked about a Sarlacc pit. You did see, sort of the main. He turned out to be the main ally. It seemed like he was the main antagonist at first, but he'd come in with this recognizable type of armor, and I don't know, like I got really into the whole vibe. I love it I love that this show can put its main plot sort of in the background of an episode and let something else kind of completely unique play out, while you've still got the main, the main overall plot in mind. They managed to move that forward without focusing on it constantly, and I don't know. I think it's cool to just let Star Wars explore its own world. I thought that was what was great about this episode. It's one of my favorites so far.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a great episode. Definitely one of my favorites too. But like the whole episode was just very good. Like it laid out the Western feel like very, very thick. Like it could, like the whole story, like where the guy enters a town and he enters like a saloon, and then there's like a guy that comes and meets him, like they have like about to have a duel, and then there's a problem like with the whole with the worm, like help me out, a quid pro quo situation. It just feels like that could come out of, like, for example, if Red Dead Redemption was like a future sci-fi, it would come straight out of that campaign mode. It was like, I thought it was pretty awesome. Like it was just like kind of nostalgic in a way because of the whole Western feel, but again, it's like a sci-fi show too. So, but that part was pretty cool. And of course, all the Easter eggs, like for example, Boba Fett, and I'm pretty sure the Marshall Speeder was like a part of a pod racer or something like that. Like it might have been one of the engines. Like did anyone notice that at all? It was like pretty chunky.
I noticed the vehicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know what it was, but it did stand out to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Piece of a pod racer. I'll have to watch it again to comment on that. I do like that we can all agree right now, though, that it is the single best episode of season 2 to date.
That is true.
It's pretty good.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Although I did like that Bill Burr episode. That was pretty good. You know, the one where they went on a job together, and then it was kind of like a heist kind of episode. You know that one?
Yeah, the one at the prison.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are those aliens with the head tails called again? What are they called?
The one with the two things that come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
It's not hair. I don't know what those are called.
The Ayla Secura and Hera race of aliens. I don't remember their actual name off the top of my head.
That was so bad.
This is really bad, but anyway. That was a pretty good episode too. But yeah, there was also like has anyone watched Justified?
No,
because Timmy Olyphant, he plays a character. I mean, he plays the main character on the show. He's also a marshal, so I like that nod to it. So that was pretty cool. Like he was just like another marshal in this episode too.
Yeah, it actually looked like a bit like, to come back to Max's point about the costume not being obviously his. It was kind of funny to me because it was the Halloween weekend, and the marshal actually looked like he was dressed for Halloween with that costume on. It just didn't feel right, you know. And it was quite obvious it was a banged up armor, and we all know where that came from. Direct out of that Sarlacc pit, probably. So they had a big reveal at the end of the episode, where the Mandalorian drives off with a big chunk of meat, the child, into the sunset. Actually, the ratio of the screen changed a bit. Like there, you get that real wide Western look vibe, which what they always do at the end of Westerns. You know, you get a really wide view of the desert. Well, you saw that when the Mandalorian drove off on his speeder bike, and then you see a character turning around, which turns out to be Boba Fett. Apparently, he survived the Sarlacc pit. And there are some people who love it, and there are some people who don't. I personally am not a big fan of bringing people back from the dead, although officially we've never seen Boba Fett die in the movies, and yeah, he has of course the rocket on his back, so why there is a you can assume he flew out of there, especially since yeah, we didn't see that on screen, his death. He just fell in it. There's a possibility he could have gone out of it. Still, I don't see the appeal of the character of Boba Fett. I mean, I think it all dates back from Attack of the Clones or something like that, where all of a sudden he became very important to the universe. Yeah. To me, he was just a character that was there. And not really important, but apparently there are a lot of fans of this character, and I don't know why. So anyone has any thoughts on that?
Yes, actually. In the original trilogy, to back up your point there, he had 5 sentences delivered in 4 lines. So, like, to talk about how critical Boba actually was in the original trilogy, he barely had any presence at all. Like, he was there and he stood out, but at the same time, he really didn't deliver anything. And then his death was the most unceremonious thing, or potential death was the most unceremonious thing you've ever seen. Like, a blind guy accidentally hit his back and he went flying across, thudded into a wall and collapsed into a hole. Like, it was just a terrible scene, considering they came back later and built Boba up in the prequels. Like, it was just an awful way to go. In support of the getting out of the Sarlacc pit thing, I did some real nerd math here, and it said takes 1,000 years to digest this thing, to digest in there. And they do say excruciating pain, but I will give credit to Boba's bounty hunter training that maybe he can have some mental resolve close to Jedi levels where he can work past the pain. So what you're looking at there, with 1,000 years dissolving there, it takes 9 months in the desert above the Sarlacc pit to dissolve your bone. So you're talking about 1,300 times the time it would take to dissolve on the surface that it takes inside the Sarlacc. You're talking about a day spa visit, basically, for this guy inside the Sarlacc pit, once you can push past the pain.
Yeah. And yeah, again, he has the rocket on his back, so he could have flown out.
So you're saying it's... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's fine. But yeah, there's no reason to think he was ever gonna be dead. So, nonetheless, I don't see the appeal of this character at all. But I'm happy the fans are happy.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like Akbar. Like, no one really knows why he's so popular either. It's like he barely did anything. Like, I'm sure he commanded one of the ships, and like it was a critical role in the rebel war. But the thing is, like, it's kind of like, why is Akbar so popular? Like Boba Fett just looks cool. That's why he's popular. Like, I mean, that's the thing with those kind of characters.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trap. But that's literally it.
We have a complete Akbar cult on the site because of one little line of 2 words.
Exactly.
So
I also love the reveal at the end, mostly for the fact that Boba hasn't really done all of that much in the series. He stands out as a character, like you said, that looks cool, that comes off as important, but I feel that this is like probably the best thing that's ever happened to him. I know Wellibers, you don't feel like that, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where he goes with this, and I don't think it's just like a one-off thing. It's not just he's alive and that's all they're going to do with it. I think this is clearly going somewhere, and I'm really interested in where it's going. That's why I'm in for it.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Where it is going?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. I haven't really put a whole ton of thought into it. So I think the implication sort of is that this is the Mandalorian guy he was looking for. Now, I know Boba isn't a Mandalorian, but I think this is kind of the real guy that the prize fighter mobster at the beginning was kind of alluding to. That this is sort of the real guy that he was kind of after. Even if he didn't know it, this is sort of who he was needed to get to and who he was looking for. I think with the idea of the overall quest that they're trying to take Baby Yoda to his own people, I think that Boba's probably a key to that. Boba knows what the history of the Empire was, and even in the first season, you heard the Mandalorian already talking about how the Jedi were sort of this mythical group, which is really interesting to me because it's only 5 years after the fall. But they're still not, regardless, they're still not very familiar with what the Jedi were, and Boba definitely will be. He'll definitely be familiar with who Yoda was. So I think he's the key to directing Mando wherever he's going. I don't know if he's going to be an antagonist, really, or maybe he'll help him. I really don't know, but I think he's the key to where they're going with this season.
Gollum role.
Max, any thoughts?
Yes, what he was saying there, I kind of think it's like a Gollum role for Mando or for Boba potentially there. I like the way they introduced him. Like it seemed reasonable that in hunting for the Mandalorian armor, he would come by the guy that had it, and that guy who had found it, obviously it hadn't been dissolved, so it had to have been out of the pit well ahead of the just the fact that Boba's still alive, well ahead of the 1,000-year limit. But it was impressive to me that I was thrown off by it. I wasn't expecting to see him right then. But seeing it, there is a lot of background from his bounty hunter training days in the animated series. I know that's kind of a viewership wall for a lot of people. Not everybody's willing to sit down and watch an animated version of Star Wars. But there is a lot of character dev there that makes you want to see Boba come back and hopefully do some stuff. The idea of seeing him try to chase down, maybe he's going to end up joining the Mandalorian's new Mandalorian group, since this isn't a Mandalorian who's actually a Mandalorian. It's just a group that prescribes to the training that they do. Even among the Mandalorians, the no helmet rule was never a policy among Mandalorians. It seems to be a policy among non-Mandalorians playing at being Mandalorians. So it's interesting to see him following the guy who already isn't an actual Mandalorian and seeing what could come of that. He could just want a new set of armor because his was busted, and he's just been waiting this whole time.
Biz?
Well, like I think in the expanded universe, the Feds are actually they're seen as like a disgrace that I don't think they're really liked by the Mandalorians. I mean that's what I heard anyway. And then there's also like in the expanded universe where there's like a story like somewhere where like Boba Fett actually survives the Sarlacc pit, but I'm not sure how that's gonna play out in the series. So, but there is a precedent for it.
I think a big question is so if he got out of the Sarlacc, well, he obviously got out, but once he got out, how did he then also lose his armor?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering, I think there's got to be a little bit of a story there, but I'm wondering if he didn't just simply fly out, but he actually maybe killed the thing from the inside somehow and then crawled his way out after killing it, and then that kind of left it a little more open for the I'm not sure that the dragon couldn't have killed it anyway, but that's how the dragon.
Or he flew out, passed out from the pain that Sarlacc pit caused him, and Jawas found him, took his armor, and left him to die.
That's probably the easiest solution.
Yeah.
I actually had a slightly more nefarious scheme on that idea. I think he intentionally gave up his armor in the hopes that it would draw people in from a group that he would be interested in pursuing. So he knew that the Mandalorians would come. He didn't know whether or not they would kill the guy in the armor on sight. So, like, it's better to have the sheriff or the marshal wear it for him and then see what happens than be the guy wearing it and have the busted armor against a full Mandalorian.
Yeah, and in the end, the main plot line is, of course, bringing the child back to his people. Boba Fett could well be the plot device that sets our Mandalorian further on its route. We saw in the trailer he will also go to an ice planet, maybe Hoth, probably Hoth. So yeah, Boba Fett could be a very important part in helping our Mandalorian further on his quest. And I can totally see that happening in the next episode. And there's, of course, the part where Boba Fett probably wants his armor back from the Mandalorian. So The question is how.
He could give it to him.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if he does want it. As geared up as he was in that final scene, it looks like he could have walked in and taken it any time he wanted it. I think it was a beacon to draw somebody in rather than something he was trying to pursue.
Well,
Ooh, he used it as bait to get a Mandalorian there to
Right.
take that. Ooh, maybe.
we'll see.
I can see that.
Well, does anyone have any other comments or thoughts on this week's episode?
Just real quick, going back to what we said earlier, the race with the two things, coming out, the tendrils, two tendrils coming out of their head. I might mispronounce this, but it's Twi'leks, T-W-I, apostrophe L, Twi'leks. I'm
Is
gonna
it
go with
Twi'lek or Twi'lek? I can't remember.
maybe
now.
Twi'lek.
I like Twilks. I think I've seen that in the animated series. I could be mistaken, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Well,
No, I just thought it was cool, like when they were in this kind of canyon thing, and then these like alien wolves showed up, and then like the Mando's like, oh, this is just like what it was speaking in Tusken Raider, and then he just started patting them, like treating them like little like puppies.
yeah,
that
he
was pretty
went,
cool.
he went full on Chris Pratt in that scene from Jurassic World.
Yeah, that was pretty
Oh.
awesome.
That was a
Okay.
good scene. I would like to point out the dragon egg that was in there. It wasn't actually an egg. It was a pearl formed by the dragon, and those pearls are worth a ton of money. So that's why they were so excited.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah, okay.
I thought it might be an egg at first also, and I was like, why would they possibly want this egg? And then I looked it up a little. It's a pearl that is just worth a ton of money because obviously defeating one of those dragons and harvesting the pearls is a very rare act.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps up our first review for The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it. We, again, invite you to join us at Sakaar. The link will be below the video. And we hope to see you next week for another review of Episode 2.